Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Wells Fargo, PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. The New Jersey Education Association, working for great public schools for every child. Health Republic Insurance of New Jersey. New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey. And by the Russell Berry Foundation. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger, powering NJ.com, and by Commerce Magazine.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato, normally One-on-One. This is One-on-Two. It's worth it, trust me. Let me introduce our two guests. Our good friend, Joe Vitale, is the playwright of Murrow. And his colleague here is Stephen Gleason, who plays Edward R. Murrow in Murrow. Set this up for us, Joe. You've been working on this for a long time, on the extraordinary journalist, Edward R. Murrow.
Yeah.
It's a play you were working on starting when?
Back in the 80s, after I graduated actually from Columbia Journalism School, where one of my professors was Fred Friendly.
Who, in fact, was the producer with the great Murrow.
That's right, you know, his collaborator and producer. And based on Fred's stories, some of the great stories he told there at Columbia, I got to writing it and inspired by that. And actually, sometime in the mid-'80s, sent it to David Susskind, pretty famous producer.
That's right.
And Mr. Susskind really liked the play and tried for a while to actually get it produced. We didn't get around to doing that, but got to meet and speak with Mrs. Murrow, which was really exciting. He sent her the play and got to speak to her on the phone about that, so that was a great moment.
For people who do not know who Edward R. Murrow was and why he was a giant in our industry, who was he and why did he matter?
Well, he was a man who was ahead of his time. He had his fingers on what mattered in news, and he was like the first man, wasn't he, in World War II to bring that scene into people's homes through the radio. And then in television, you know, he brought all of that controversy with McCarthy again into people's homes.
Joseph McCarthy was in 1954. He took United States Senator Joseph McCarthy on, who was alleging to have these lists that he was going to expose American citizens, expose members of Congress, expose actors, red baiting, if you will. Right. And McCarthy took him on.
Murrow took him on at a...
Murrow took on McCarthy.
At a critical moment. Amazing in some ways, because Murrow was this famous man.
Yes.
Had a great career.
Risky.
All the power, all the money, and yet, when you think about it, Steve, he put his career on the line and his reputation and took on Joe McCarthy really at the height of his power.
McCarthy accusing everyone of being a communist.
That's
which
right.
At the time in 1954, during the heart of the middle of the Cold War, right?
Exactly.
What did that mean?
It meant you were in trouble, whether you were working in academia, even in broadcasting. They had a publication out called Red Channels.
They had lists, didn't they?
Which, yeah, purported to name people in the media who were communists or communist sympathizers.
It's hard to work if you're on that list.
You didn't. The blacklisting.
Right.
We heard about the blacklisting. So March 9th, 1954, Ed Murrow took on Joe McCarthy very directly in a way no commentator, reporter had ever taken on a political figure head on. Yeah. And it was quite a remarkable broadcast.
And so you do this play, and you pick this guy to be Murrow.
That's right.
Why did he pick you?
I don't know. We were talking earlier how I sent a video to him, and I kind of dressed up like him and did one of his speeches, as he would have.
With the cigarette thing?
I didn't have a cigarette. I should have. And, you know, you emailed me back, and something told me I should just go for it, you know, and I did. And I knew something about him, of course, in college, but I've grown to become very close to his principles, his risk-taking, his integrity, and his smarts.
Yeah. Joe, the play, you know, we're taping this program in the winter of 2014. The play ran, right?
Yeah, we had a reading at the Dramatists Guild January 24th.
Reaction?
Stephen can tell you better. It was sold out. It was standing room only, and the audience seemed to really like it. The response was tremendous. I think both to Stephen as an actor, but also to the man. I think they were truly moved by his story.
What does it mean to you to have spent so much time connected to this project and then to get that reaction?
It's a great feeling because as a writer, you know, you work in isolation, and until your words are out there in front of people, you're not really sure about the quality of what you've done. But there's a lot of Murrow in the play. There's a lot of his actual broadcast in the play, so people can actually hear what it was like and see what it was like to listen to Murrow make those broadcasts. So it meant a lot to get that reaction. It also meant a lot. I think people have a thirst today and a hunger for that sort of integrity.
You do think that?
I do think that.
Why do you think? How do you think Murrow would have done in cable news?
He would have fought it, I think.
Why? You think a little food fight going on in cable news?
I don't know. I think he was the man at the time.
Yeah, right.
He was the perfect guy at the time, and thank God he was around.
How wild that Murrow got pushed out.
Yeah.
Murrow got pushed out.
Industry was changing quite fast, and
Not an entertainment guy, right?
no.
That wasn't his thing.
Although
he did
person to person.
He did person to person, which was not to be confused with See It Now.
That's right.
Right, there's See It Now.
Right. The
which
news
was
show.
Right? And there's person to person.
Right,
The
and
entertainment.
he went into their homes, you know, the Hollywood people, and
He could do it.
Yes, he did it very well, and was very highly rated.
But he could do it both.
Both.
That was not his love.
No, in fact, there's a famous quote, Steve. Somebody asked him once about that, and he was very shrewd because he knew you had to build up a certain amount of clout.
Yes.
And remember, Person to Person was one of the, you know, really popular shows.
Yes.
He said, "I do the show I hate to be able to do the show I love."
It's so true.
He knew it. He knew it.
It paid bills, didn't it?
It paid the bills, and it gave him the clout and the standing to be able to do that.
Let me ask you this in the time we have.
Yeah.
How do you think those of us who are in this business and live on, you know, it's ridiculous, live on Murrow's shoulders. And by the way, WNET, our parent, if you will, in New York, the PBS flagship, it was Murrow who did the first broadcast.
I know that, and I saw
Who was
it.
there. You ever see it?
Yes.
Television can teach, television can illuminate,
It's
television
fantastic.
can educate. And if it chooses not to do those things, it is simply wires in a box.
That's right. And you use that line.
That's my ending.
Is it right?
It's the last line
I'll
of the
never
play.
forget seeing that video,
Yeah,
right?
it's fantastic. Yeah,
It's true.
It's a great broadcast.
yeah,
Yeah.
prophetic.
Yeah.
It reminds us
Yeah.
it isn't just the medium. It's what we choose to do
That's
with
what
it,
you
right?
do
That's
with
right.
it. It's what you do with it.
It's
He
a
knew it.
challenge for all of us.
There's a certain responsibility, obviously, and he took that on. Yeah.
Exactly.
What do you want people to remember about this guy?
His integrity and his guts. He was a purist in many ways. And Eric Severide said something about him, which was
From
so true
CBS.
when he died.
Right.
And Severide was one of his colleagues. He said, "He was an original, a shooting star. We shall not see his like again." And I
Yeah.
think that kind of summed it up.
Well, it is a great service that you've done. Our friend Joe Vitale, a playwright of Murrow, and Stephen Gleason, who plays Edward R. Murrow in this play. I want to thank both of you for joining us.
Thank
you, Steve.
You have a home
Appreciate
with
it.
us.
Thank you.
And we're just in Murrow's world.
That's right.
We'll be back right after this. Thanks, guys.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Dr. Adam Shiroff is the Chief of Trauma at Jersey Shore University Medical Center. Good to see you, Doctor.
Good to see you, Steve. Thanks.
Now, right next to you, if that camera pans over, get this shot, there is a fascinating skeleton next to you, right? And what are we looking at right there?
So this is a plastic model of the skeleton. You know, Steve, my patients do typically better than this.
Okay.
But this is a model just to demonstrate one of the sort of innovative procedures that we do at Jersey Shore, and it's a new technology used to fix rib fractures. And it's a problem that's been around obviously for a long time. And there's a new procedure out, rib fracture fixation, that's used.
It's called rib fracture fixation, because
Rib
every
fracture
time
fixation.
someone has had a problem with the rib, right? Say they fracture a rib.
Correct.
My understanding is, very often physicians will say, doctors say, look, rest, I don't know, the ice, then heat, then ice, then heat, rest, can't do much.
Right.
You say?
I say that's not the case anymore. You know, I'm not talking about the weekend warrior who cracks a rib playing touch football. I'm talking about the guy who gets hit by the car, falls 15 feet off a roof at a construction site, the traumatically injured patient. But there's now a technology, the titanium plating systems, that will allow us to put those ribs back together, treat them like orthopods have treated bones for years, prevent the pain that goes along with rib movement, prevent the respiratory compromise that goes along with that.
Oh, the respiratory compromise.
Right.
What does that mean?
So folks who have rib fractures, you and I walk around all day taking deep breaths, sighing, yawning, we don't even notice it. Folks who have rib fractures and chest pain, they don't do that, particularly with a number of rib fractures. So during that, there's small air sacs in the lungs filled with fluid. They're not coughing. They're not taking deep breaths. They're at huge risk for pneumonia. And in the hospital with huge risk for pneumonia, those patients are going to end up on a ventilator. They're going to end up on the ICU, needing to go to rehab with a tracheostomy. You know, I saw this throughout my training for years and years, and there was just nothing you could do for these patients. Surgeons tried for 100 years to fix ribs with wires and different things, and now there's a technology that actually works.
What is the technology?
The technology is titanium plates, and it's very similar to what's been used in the past for treating broken jaws.
Where are the titanium plates?
So here, so you can see this blue,
Bob Morris, our director, you getting this? Yeah, I can see it.
blue plate there. There's a gold plate here. So there's this system that's used is by the DuPuis Synthes Corporation, part of Johnson & Johnson. They make plates that are specifically designed based on CAT scan data for each rib individually.
Right.
So if you had to span, say, 2 fractures on a rib, you can use a very long contoured plate, and this would allow you to take care of a number of fractures with just one piece of hardware.
So hold on. How long do they stay in?
They stay in forever.
No.
Yes.
They stay in forever?
They stay in forever. I give you a little business card that you put in your pocket so the TSA guys at the airport don't go crazy. And
wait, seriously?
Seriously. It's titanium. It doesn't cause a reaction. It's just like other orthopedic hardware. It's titanium.
So you give, in all seriousness, you give someone a card that says, look, I'm going through.
Right. I have this kind of hardware. It's here on my chest. It's got screws with a head that look like this. It's very specific. So there's not a security concern. Because that's one of the first questions out of patients' mouths are, A, can I get an MRI? The answer is yes.
You can get an MRI.
It is. It's not magnetic. It's titanium.
Right.
And B, what's going to happen when I go through the thing at the airport when the TSA guys are freaking out that I've got a chest full of metal?
Who's eligible, who's not?
So eligibility, it's largely...
So let me put it this way. Sure. Who's a good candidate, who is not such a great candidate?
So a good candidate for this operation is someone who's got multiple rib fractures, has a decent sort of performance status, who's a decent baseline health. Although you could argue that those who aren't in baseline health have even more of a need to breathe the right way faster. So it's a patient who's suffering from pain, can't take deep breaths, their pain isn't controlled with just the normal sort of oral narcotics or Tylenol or Percocet or whatever, or those who have a chest wall deformity. So they can actually have multiple fractures that could cause an asymmetry in their chest, and that can lead to long-term problems down the road.
Age matter?
It does. I've operated on patients as young as in their 20s and as old as 90.
That's interesting. I'm going to shift gears here.
Sure.
The other thing I want to talk about is the trauma center that you're involved in. I hear trauma center, I think, oh, so you're talking about the ED or the emergency room.
Right.
Not the same thing?
Not the same thing. You know, when a trauma center is a building, it's a hospital. And what a trauma center is, it's a dedication by that hospital to the resources and the personnel to provide care for the injured patient immediately. So it's
Give me for instance.
So for instance, there's general surgeons all over the country that can take out a spleen, no problem. There's neurosurgeons at every other community hospital that can take out a blood clot from the brain. However, a trauma center has those specialists immediately available. And we know we've known since the 60s that getting the patient in the right place at the right time, in the right hands, is what saves lives. So trauma centers have that dedication to those resources.
What are we looking at right there in the video?
That's the State Police helicopter North Star landing on the Jersey Shore.
Now, okay, so an ED.
An emergency room is incredibly valuable. Don't make no mistake. The emergency department at Jersey Shore, incredibly well run by Bob Sweeney, a good friend of mine. They see 85,000 patients a year. The trauma center, I may see only 2,000. But it's so resource heavy, and the emergency room will see such a breadth of everything from someone with a cold who doesn't want to go to their primary care doc to the woman delivering the baby who is coming in the door. So they have an incredible breadth, and really the trauma center and the trauma surgeon who's dedicated waiting for the patient, so the patient doesn't have to wait for that resource to come in.
Very different focus.
Very different focus.
One more thing. You're heavily into injury prevention.
Right, so
what can be prevented, what can't?
Right, so the vast majority of trauma, really even in the most violent areas of the country, the majority of trauma is what's called a blunt mechanism, which means, so there's penetrating trauma, which is stabs and gunshot wounds and things like that. And then there's blunt mechanism, which is car accidents, pedestrians and bicyclists being struck by cars, people falling off of things. And the majority of things are a blunt mechanism. So trauma, which is sort of an interesting in the business world, we like a lot of medicine, work very, very hard to put ourselves out of business. So a huge amount of energy goes into injury prevention, and a lot of trauma prevention is really reiterating what is common sense. So car seats. Is your car seat for your child buckled in right? We have a program that's every month in conjunction with the state police to ensure that it's free. Bring your car seat to Jersey Shore, they will check it, help you pick out the car seat, help you install
do it the right way.
Help you install the car seat.
I was actually concerned about this just the other day with our daughter. I said, I don't think this is
It's
right.
a little loose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I really didn't know exactly how to do it, and I said, I can't take her. I
Right.
just can't take her. You really have to know how to do it. Do you go to the police department?
It's done at the hospital, so there's people that are certified in these car seat things, and they will help check that.
Gotta
And,
get it
and
right.
another huge one is the focus on distracted and drinking and driving. There's a program that we run that touches between 8,000 and 10,000 high school age kids and their parents a year, and that's about put the phone down, don't drink
No
and drive, be
texting.
smart. Right, it's common sense. Don't text and drive.
Injury prevention.
Injury
Doctor,
prevention.
good stuff. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very
That's
much.
fascinating, by the way.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
One-on-one will continue right after this.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Ken Jennings is the principal of Benedictine Academy. Good to see you.
Thank you, Steve.
For those who do not know your academy, describe it.
We're an all-girls college preparatory high school in the city of Elizabeth. We have 200 students, and we're very active in a lot of different ways. Obviously, academically, college preparatory. Our students are attending some of the major universities, Princeton University, NYU, Fordham, University of Notre Dame, girls that are involved in the sciences, the humanities. So it's an exciting time in our school.
I met some of the young ladies from Benedictine at the Governor's Jefferson Awards that are done every year, which honor and recognize those who are making a difference. And the young women from your school were recognized for the work that they are doing in connection with two areas. One having to do with trying to fight bullying, and the other having to do with?
Human trafficking.
Yeah. Describe that, because it is just amazing.
It's the girls, and under the leadership of our campus minister, Linda Mikowski, and also Sister Donna Jo Rapetti, our guidance counselor, have formed a student leadership team, and they call themselves the Core Defenders, core from the Latin word meaning heart, and they want